a little all over the place for sure, but love sitting down and doing some Mizzou talk. Grant, of course, can't be relied upon, so I have to step in. That's understandable.
That's all right. It sounds like you've had to do it before. How dare him take a vacation? How dare him?
I know.
Take a vacation when we're literally just a month away from Mizzou's first game against
Training
Central.
camp is getting going, Grant. What are we doing?
That's exact. You know what? Training camp's tough. A lot of guys leave when training camp begins. Schaeffer, you come in. He takes off. Here we go. Ready to talk about it. You bring it up. Training camp. It's always one of those things that's interesting. I'm telling you, I never forget it, and I haven't in 30 years. You dreaded training camp as a player, but you loved it. You loved it because it meant the start of the season. You dreaded it because of the two-a-days, the hard-hitting, the Groundhog Day, so to speak, atmosphere. Back then, they were we went to Mexico, Missouri. It was a little bit different. Now they stay in-house at home. You were there in Columbia. A lot of hype for this team coming in. Obviously, SEC media felt differently, but we know as fans, there is reason for optimism as they head to camp.
Definitely reason for optimism. And it's funny you mentioned just like the general stuff that comes along with camp. I think I saw a tweet from Eli Drinkwitz yesterday where he took a picture of like the dorms the guys will be staying in, and you've got these 6'6" defensive ends staying in these little college freshman twin bunks in the dorm rooms. That's part of the camp experience as well, right? You don't necessarily have the best accommodations because you're going to grow there with your brothers over the course of the next month to get ready for the season. But I mean, my goodness, the optimism. It's a line that Drink has used over the offseason that I think we're going to really see put to the test here coming up, which is that he thinks this might be the most talented roster that he has had at Mizzou. Now, obviously, there's uncertainty about some key positions. You'll be excited to see that quarterback situation play out, the left tackle battle, and who's going to emerge from the ranks in that position, an important position, of course. But I think when you look at a lot of these position groups, there's depth to a lot of these rooms that haven't necessarily been as strong as they are now, even in the years where Mizzou was winning 11 games in a Cotton Bowl and winning 10 games last year. I think the roster depth is going to be really compelling to watch as it unfolds here in camp.
No, it does, and I'll talk more about that in just a moment. Eli, you brought it up, staying in camp, staying in the dorms with the players, as he should. I'm glad he is. It's not only that, but you know what? I just want to remind people, they do have extended beds. Now, I'm assuming they ordered extended beds because it's impossible to put a 6'4", 6'5" guy and taller in those beds. It's impossible. Obviously, they want to get the best that they can out of the kids when they're there, and they give you plenty of time to sleep. I mean, you'll have 8 hours, and most of the time you'll lay down and you're out. You're out, and you open your eyes and you feel like you slept about 5 minutes, and you've slept 8 hours. Those guys in the dorms will have some extended beds, but yeah, it's different. You hear everything for the most part. It's not exciting, but at least they're on campus. And now it's all changed because they're getting paid. Many of these kids, most of these kids are getting paid. And it's just a reminder. It's like, okay, it's time to work. It's time to devote every waking moment to football. And here's the other thing where people don't maybe not realize is your time when Mizzou, as they checked in yesterday, began their first practices today. Your time from morning to night for the rest of the season is pretty much booked with class, lifting, film study, football. When I say football, that's everything. That's practice, that's lifting, that's training table, that's taking care of yourself. It is football, 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 football. And that's what it's about. Because before you know it, 30 days from now, you're going to be taking the field. Well, almost 30 days. You're going to be taking the field against Central Arkansas with a team that people are excited to watch and see what we're going to have, minus a few superstars from last year's team.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I'm really excited in particular about the defense, man. Like you think about last year's defense, it was a pretty good unit, but they went out and said, okay, where did we kind of fall behind a little bit? What are some areas that we could really strengthen it up? Up front, I think the defensive line and the edge rushing in particular, there's a deep room there of, some guys that you had last year that like Darius Smith goes down with an injury in camp. he's back. You bring in some other transfers. There's returners like Zion Young. Excited about that group. But I would say last year, if we had one negative thing to say or a criticism of the defense at times, we would see the secondary have some breakdowns. And I don't think it was necessarily always due to, just a lack of ability or athleticism. I think sometimes it was just some wires getting crossed, and it happened. It would seem like maybe once a game you'd have that deep ball that would go over the top, and you're kind of pointing at the guy from across going, wait, what happened here? They went out and they added a couple. I mean, they added safety depth that Jalen Catalon is an example. That's going to be a big part of that too, Vic. So I'm just excited about really all ends of this team, but on particularly the defense, as you're kind of working through a new left tackle potentially and working through a new quarterback, to have the defense be potentially as strong top to bottom as it has a chance to be, I think is a really exciting element of all this.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a lot about the defense throughout the year. We talked about him in the last, 3-4 weeks on the show already. If there's one guy that I want to watch, I'm most intrigued about, and I'd like to get your opinion on this too. Can't be two, pick one. One guy that I can't wait to watch because, in my humble opinion, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, when's the last middle linebacker that you can remember from Missouri really, 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 really making an impact? I am going with Josiah Trotter as the guy that I really, 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 really look forward to watching, not only because of his father's pedigree, not because his uncle just won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, but because you're talking about a kid that showed a lot as a freshman. Was he freshman Big 12 Player of the Year? I thought I had heard that. I thought I had read that. A lot of hype. I haven't seen him play. I've seen some highlights, but I haven't seen him play. And I think he could be a real big key for that defense in the middle. So my guy is Josiah Trotter, the guy that I really, really, really want to watch for MIZ-ZOU this year. At least coming out of the gate to see how he can help solidify the middle. And we all know the run game and the teams that you go against, you're going to have to stop the run. Something Missouri's been decent at. And, of course, they're planning on having a run game themselves.
Yeah, speaking of which, are we doing this game? Am I picking a player from the defense, or can I go across the board? If I have one guy to watch.
Go across the board. The only reason I brought up defense was because you did. But he's the guy that's intriguing to me just because we don't know what we're going to get. And he had a good year last year. Well, then why, Vic, would you say you don't know what you're going to get? Well, the reason being is he's coming to play in the SEC.
Yeah, it's going to be a change coming from West Virginia playing the Big 12 to the SEC, but clearly somebody that shows out right away early in his college career. And the guy that I'm going to name that I'm most excited to watch is someone that fits that same billing, but on the other side of the football. Ahmad Hardy is my answer. I mean, I cannot wait to see this kid run the football. Was Sun Belt Freshman of the Year at Louisiana, and seems like, especially if you consider like the quarterback battle going on, whether it's Bo Perbula, Sam Horn, like both those guys have the ability with their legs, I think, to do some things. Maybe Bo a little bit more so. But I think the scheme that potentially we could see Ahmad Hardy just slip right into and be fitting this team like a glove. I am so excited to watch him run the football. I think he is going to be a huge focal point of the offense. Get him through camp healthy, get the offensive line through camp as healthy as you can be. And I think they're going to be able to do some special things on the ground with their run game offensively. And Hardy, I think, is going to be a real big component of that.
If Hardy isn't, this offense will struggle, right? Isn't that pretty obvious?
Is that the thought?
It's my thought right now. If Hardy is not having a successful season, I think Missouri is struggling because people are going to realize how much Brady Cook meant to the offense, my humble opinion. Yeah. You may disagree. And because Hardy was so good as a freshman, they have some other running backs, but they don't have anybody even close to being as proven as Hardy. And Hardy didn't do it in this conference. I get it. But like you, I love those intangibles. The video looks phenomenal, and Missouri will build an offense around him. Obviously, they have a couple offensive line spots to fill.
Yeah, they do.
You disagree with me? You disagree that
I don't know that they'll for sure struggle if he's not jumping off the page.
Who's going to be running the ball and having the success if it's not him?
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard at this time of year to say, there's freshmen that are going to be, making an impact right away. We don't know. We can like what we've seen and heard from those guys, but we don't really know. Jamal Roberts, I think, mixed in and did a nice job as kind of like an ancillary back last year, and he'll get some more opportunities to spell Ahmad Hardy. But you're right. Like, I think when we've seen the run game be at its most successful, you think to like the Cody Schrader year where Drink is satisfied to say, hey, let's give one guy the bulk of the workload and let him go do that. And we'll see whether Ahmad Hardy fits the billing on that. But I think he can be so explosive. I think he can be just a real threat for them and a consistent one.
And I wasn't being negative. I'm just saying I don't know where
important.
Missouri's going to have to run the ball to win, in my humble opinion. That's the first thing I'm saying. And the reason I set that up is with I'm giving you a backbone to what I'm saying. They must be able to run the football this year. They're not going to have some lightning pass game by all intents and purposes that we can see. All right, so they got to be able to be aggressive and physical and run the football. Who can run in their depth chart right now that we have seen and is explosive? It's him. And if he's not there, and if he's not having a good year, then who's going to have all the offense? Or who's going to be? I mean, that was my point. That's why I think a lot of pressure, in my humble opinion, is placed upon this young man's shoulders as he comes into camp. But that's why
I think it's that offensive line too, by the way. Like they got to be able to block for him and get a push up front. And that's going to make life easier on the quarterback, and it's having that run game that can churn out 4 or 5 yards, 6 yards on first down and allow for everything else in the series to kind of flow together and open the playbook up a little bit. Like, I don't think you want to get the quarterback. And I keep saying the quarterback. We know it's a quarterback competition. I don't know your take on this. I will be surprised if Bo Pribula is not the starting quarterback when push comes to shove. I'll say against KU on the 6th of September. I don't know what they would do for Central Arkansas. They might play both guys kind of like we saw a couple of years ago when we knew Brady was going to win that competition over Sam Horn. But either way, I feel like, and especially if it is Bo Pribula, we know he can run. I mean, that's what he was doing for Penn State in specific packages when they had Drew Aller running the offense. I would just be so excited to watch those two guys run the option. And it's not like you're going to turn into Georgia Tech or anything, but I do think it would benefit the roster to really lean on the run game the way you're talking about. And so that's why I would say the number one thing for me when it comes to the next month in camp, Ahmad Hardy, keep him healthy. And obviously, you've got to go out there and practice and get ready for the season. But I agree with you. Like, he is going to be a huge component of what they're doing if they're going to be successful on that side of the ball. I won't count him out in the passing game yet because, again, I think they could surprise us there. And I like a couple of the pass-catching options that they have and maybe some more that have not yet emerged. But, no, I think it makes sense, especially if you plan on leading on your defense and then, going into some ball control by controlling the clock, controlling possessions with Ahmad Hardy. I think he's a hugely important player. And we don't always say that about the running back. You say, they got a group of running backs who'll be whatever. I really do think Ahmad Hardy is a big key for the year.
I'm hopeful that they can put together a passing game. I'm just not expecting a passing game to look like it did last year at times. It takes time. You have to develop. Yes, they have some really good pass catchers. I agree. They do. And they brought another a good guy in. I just see a lot of their passing game being set up from the run and the proverbial play action, and they could really do something, especially with a guy like Pribula, obviously, that keeps linebackers in check, safeties in check, because he's able to use his legs, and that. And you have to make sure that you don't have the responsibility of watching for a quarterback before you get into coverage. That's why as a defender, linebacker, safety, you hate playing teams that are excellent play action because you're always a step slow. You are. And then you have to react a lot of the times because you don't know if it's run pass. And if you get a guy like that, obviously it can work. And then, of course, we already talked about Hardy. And that's why I just feel if Missouri has success, he's going to have a really big year. And that's why it's a big question. But that's why I say what I say when it comes to him in this offense. And I've said it before. I'll say it again. They've got great talent. But I think it's going to take some time to see this passing game all over the field with the guys that are competing for quarterback. And we didn't mention the other guy who Eli so eloquently put, MIZ-ZOU, he's also in the quarterback hunt. Oh, is he? Is he, Coach? Is he really in the quarterback hunt?
He's not counting him out. Not yet, anyway.
I mean, I was like, okay. I mean, you heard Coach say that, right?
Yeah, look, I think
it's to motivate a young
the,
quarterback.
Of course, and a lot of it is strategic. And again, you can debate the merits to which like 2023 was a real competition, but that's how we talked in 2023 when it was Brady Cook and Sam Horn.
Wait a second,
Sam
Brenden.
I'm sorry.
I knew a lot of people who thought there was a legitimate quarterback battle at the time.
I know,
and I tried to tell them it's not happening. There's no quarterback battle. That's to keep another guy happy.
And you saw, right? They said they're going to play both guys. I think South Dakota was the FCS game that year, and Brady had a really good first half, and Sam was going to get the second half. But when the second half came, they just handed the ball off a bunch, right? It was very clear that Brady was going to be the option, and they utilized Sam Horn kind of like you would utilize your number 2, your backup, and didn't really let it rip and run the offense that day, which is fine. And then the next week they said, yeah, Brady's the starter. He's going to be the guy moving forward. Yeah, I think the Zollers inclusion is to that end where, and I think Drink does a great job of that. When it comes to Sam Horn, he's talked up Sam Horn for multiple years. And of course, he had the elbow injury that he's had to work his way back from. Now he's a Los Angeles Dodger as well, though that's not going to impact football season. It's just that I think that is one of the reasons players really like playing for Drink is that he genuinely seems to have the connection with each of them, and he's going to hype up the guys. And the degree to which Zollers actually has a chance to win this competition is maybe immaterial to the point that, yeah, it's still worthwhile to get his name out there and continue to make sure he knows that he's not forgotten. Because in the transfer portal era, you don't know what's going to happen from one year to the next.
No, you don't.
And that's a guy that he might be a really talented freshman that could play into the mix next year. But you make him feel like he's involved in it now, you got a better chance at convincing a kid that he wants to stay around and develop into the future starter at the University of Missouri. I'm cool with the way that was approached, even if we look at it and say, all right, Zollers is probably not winning the job over either of these two this year.
I'm with you. I still think, minus any injuries, Purbull is your starter. Sam Horn plays. And we'll see. And then it would be interesting to see what kind of packages they put together for Sam Horn as well. I was just surprised to hear, I can't remember which safety said it, that Sam Horn back in spring was running 4.4s in 40. Did you see that quote?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I'm like, Sam Horn, 6'4", maybe 6'5", running 4.4s in the 40. I'm like, damn, they've got some athletes at quarterback. They may not be these prolific drop back pocket throwers right now, but they've got athleticism. And you would think that they have the coaching staff, who just, by the way, got really nice raises, including the coordinators, to be able to put them in positions to win. No doubt about that. Talking with Brenden Schaeffer, Vic Faust here for the MIZ-ZOU show. Grant Salzman on vacation. We are here rock and roll in the MIZ-ZOU show every week, Monday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. All things MIZ-ZOU sports, MIZ-ZOU, anything related. We love doing it. The hype is there. Can you feel it? A month away, MIZ-ZOU football. And that's what we're talking about. The team reported for camp yesterday. Now they're in their two-a-day camp, if you will, so to speak, staying in the dorms in Columbia. Eli Drinkwitz there as well. In regards to the team, real quick, too, we got about 6 minutes or so before we take that break. When you look at the recruiting, I don't know if you've seen this or not, Missouri's 2026 class, way down the list in recruiting if people get into that, just in regards to the stars and things of that nature. I've been told they're not as concerned about the high school, quote, recruiting anymore. And you'll see that with kids, even in the St. Louis area in the country, less scholarships being offered and given to high school kids. Yes, you want to get the top 4-star kids if you can. If there's a 3-star kid, maybe there's a diamond in the rough that's a 2-star. But I'm told Mizzou's focus, a lot as we have seen, is on this transfer portal combo. So they're not worried about this alleged not so great 2026 recruiting class right now when it comes to rankings.
Yeah, and you're not going to convince me that it should be a concern. I actually think they are approaching this appropriately. And there's not a class ranking that they could end up with. I don't know if they're 72nd or whatever they are right now. If you look at the services, whether it's 24/7 or Rivals, whatever it is. It doesn't bother me a bit. They could end up at whatever ranking you're going to tell me they're going to end up in. And of course, there's still time before, the early signing period begins in December. There's still time to get more guys in that class. I just am not going to care about it at the end of the day. It's not going to worry me because of what you said. I do think they're prioritizing the portal, and you don't want your whole roster necessarily to come from the portal, but I absolutely think the calculus has shifted from when your lifeblood is that high school recruiting and the portal can kind of supplement, to where now if you've got a roster need immediately, you're not necessarily going to count on that 4-star or even sometimes, Vic, the 5-star coming in as a true freshman to fill that hole. Positionally, you're going to go to the portal and be able to come up with, and maybe your depth chart has somebody that can step in for the graduated player or the player that moved on to the National Football League. But I don't think it has to come from those high school ranks. And look at an example. You mentioned Trotter. We talked about Hardy. These are guys that play as freshmen elsewhere. And then Mizzou says, ooh, that guy fits up. They fit what we're doing. We can go out there, and if we're going to spend the money, if we're going to spend the NIL, let's do it on guys that we have seen perform at the collegiate level. Production over potential is what Eli Drinkwitz has said over and over again. And then we turn around and we're surprised that they're lagging behind in an area that rates potential over production. No, he said production over potential because I think that's what he intends to do with this program. They'll still look for those diamonds in the rough from the high school realm, but no longer do I believe Mizzou is going to pay up for the Williams Nwaneri's, or they're going to win a last-minute recruiting battle for a Kawan Lacey or a Courtney Crutchfield. It was nice when that happened. We felt like that was momentum, but that's not how you translate it to wins on the field if those freshmen aren't immediately ready to come in and contribute in the SEC.
That's
so
well
I've got
said.
no issue with that class ranking at all, Vic.
I'm glad to hear you talk like that because I completely agree from that standpoint as well. The production value has got to be there. I'd be curious to look at the stats and break it down. I haven't done this, but the 3 guys you just brought up, all playing elsewhere, add Catalong to the list as well with Trotter and Hardy. You're talking about 3 guys playing key positions that were playing elsewhere last year that be starting on this team. And those are just 3 guys that you just brought up right there. Not to
How about
mention,
your quarterback?
How about your quarterback? And mention how many guys would be starting that came from other places that did not sign initially with Mizzou that would be starting to start this 2025 season.
Yeah.
I mean break that down.
Well, there's a lot of them. And that's, again, and is it a concern where you talk about consistency and continuity of your roster from year to year? Okay, yeah, maybe you could have some concern with that. But then Drinkwitz is taking the upperclassmen on a missions trip, and they're working together and building a brotherhood that way. Like there's a lot of things that the staff is doing really well to almost offset some of the concerns you might have with being a roster that has a lot of contributors coming in from the portal. And some of them are younger, like Trotter and Hardy as sophomores. But then you've got guys like Catalan that you're bringing in all that wealth of experience. He's played at several different schools for several years, and he comes in knowing the drill and you know, knowing what the expectations are and can be part of the tone-setting upperclassmen group. I think they have a really nice mix. And, yeah, you could look at it and say, man, that's kind of risky to rely on the portal every year. But I just think that's the nature of the beast right now in college football, Vic. Why would you, if you're going to spend $1 million, let's just say it's $1 million, would you rather spend that on somebody that you had an idea of what he's capable of doing because you've seen him in college for a year? Or would you rather say, this freshman's got 5 stars, so I got to give him $1 million if I want him? The math just doesn't math on that anymore.
No, it doesn't. Talking with Brenden Schaeffer. He is joining us today, filling in for Grant Salzman. I'm Vic Faust. This is the MIZ-ZOU show. We're here every Monday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Let people know we love talking this Mizzou sports. If people don't know yet, let them know we break these things down. We break the topics down, lots of football. When we come back after the other side of the break, Brenden, I got to get your opinion. You were a 2016 graduate from Mizzou. Did you learn to appreciate the rivalry with Kansas? We don't have to spend a lot of time on that. I'm just curious, especially with that game sold out. Eli Drinkwitz, who you just brought up, signs a new contract. Thoughts from that standpoint? Does that get people excited? Does it mean anything? His staff gets raises. Allegedly bringing him here till 2029. I haven't found much buy-in information regarding that contract. I know a lot of people like, oh my God, is Eli going to be good enough? Then we've also got the crowd that say, oh my God, Eli's so good, he's going to be bought out by somebody. We'll get into that standpoint. Brady Cook lighting up social media yesterday with a sweet pass. It was only one pass, but us Brady Cook homers love it. He looked good. Is he going to make that team? Maybe. We'll see where that goes. And maybe a little Sophie Cunningham calling out the WNBA and getting a fine. This is the MIZ-ZOU show. Brenden and Vic back right after this. We are the Lou Information Station. We're live and on demand at louinfo.com.
You've seen this. It's brand new. Are you online?
Oh, hey. Oh, so you're new here.
All right, let's get cracking.
Okay, then maybe you should check out our website.
You're insane.
Well, you download songs illegally from the internet.
LouInfo.com. The Lou Information Station. 590 AM KLIS, Wood River, St. Louis.
Our origin story begin.
The future of driving is here, and it's electric. Introducing the all-new Audi Q6 e-tron, where luxury meets cutting-edge performance. And now, at Audi Kirkwood, drive one home with 2.99% financing for 72 months. Efficiency, power, and style, all in one extraordinary SUV. Visit Audi Kirkwood on Manchester Road or online at AudiKirkwood.com.
Lunchtime just got a whole lot better at Hot Shots Sports Bar and Grill. From mouth-watering wraps to loaded quesadillas to bold, flavor-packed sandwiches, Hot Shots has something fresh every single day, along with your favorite wings, burgers, and pizza that you know and love. And don't sleep on those Hot Shots tacos. Plus, if you gotta be in and out quick for lunch, Hot Shots has you covered every day starting at 11 a.m. Find your nearest Hot Shots Sports Bar and Grill now at hotshotsnet.com. That's hotshotsnet.com.
LouInfo.com news headlines. Brought to you by Brown and Crouppen, 222-2222.
This is your LouInfo.com news update. I'm Jared Cirillo. A state of emergency now declared in Lincoln County after flash flooding overnight Sunday. County officials said 42 people were rescued and more than a dozen had to evacuate their homes due to the heavy rainfall in the Ellsbury community. Workers at Boeing facilities in St. Louis could be headed for the picket lines. Members of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers have voted to reject Boeing's contract offer just hours before the current deal expired at midnight. Boeing said it was disappointed that employees rejected what the company called its richest contract offer and is now preparing for a work stoppage. And authorities are investigating a shooting in southern Illinois that left 2 people dead and 5 others wounded. Mount Vernon police said it happened during what police called a non-sanctioned event in the 600 block of South 15th Street early Sunday morning. The Lou Information Station is streaming 24/7 at louinfo.com. I'm Jared Cirillo.
Now, LouInfo.com weather. Presented by STL Sports Central. St. Louis sports. Anytime, anywhere.
Here's your LouInfo.com weather update. Very hot and very humid for the next couple of days. An extreme heat warning is in effect through tomorrow evening. We're in the upper 90s today. Our heat index 109 to 113, so really watch it in the sunshine today. Overnight, some clouds, our low dropping to 80. We're going up to about 100 and very humid on Tuesday and sunny. I'm meteorologist Steve Hamilton for the Lou Information Station, streaming 24/7 at louinfo.com.
STL Sports Central is St. Louis's first all-digital sports network, and it's easy to find on YouTube. Catch the Randy Carricker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Videos and written content from Bernie Miklas, Card Central 365 every day, plus post-game shows after every St. Louis sports team plays. It's all at your fingertips on YouTube and online at stlsportscentral.com. Check it out.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
At Brown and Crouppen, we get that after an accident, money's tight. That's why we offer so much for free. First call, free. First consultation, free. Stuck at home or in the hospital, we'll come to you for free. So call Brown and Crouppen, where we don't get paid unless you do. And your first consultation is free.
Hot Take Central 2.0.
Now, as you sports fans know,
it's really getting out of hand, man. It's going way out of control.
With Cam Jansen.
I'm going to lead you down the path that rocks.
And Jimmy the Cat Hayes.
You're a legend in the city, moving by day instead of night.
Weekday mornings from 8 to 10.
Hell yeah.
Only on the Lou Information Station. Streaming 24/7 at louinfo.com. Hot Take Central 2.0.
This whole situation is getting out of control.
Back to more of MIZ-ZOU.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Vic Faust, Brenden Schaeffer here. Grant Salzman out on vacation. Glad you're with us for the MIZ-ZOU show here every Monday, 10 to 11 a.m. And thank God we have a football team that gives us things to talk about. Thank God we have a football team that we can be excited about, at least with potential starting the season. Could you imagine what it would be like having a team coming back with zero expectations? Gee, we're a month out from the season. We have no expectations. MIZ-ZOU is spending money, and they have to in the SEC. That's why they're able to have such a fantastic, my humble opinion, I know they have to do recruiting, but money does the biggest talking of all when it comes to recruiting. Don't let anybody fool you. More players are gotten to teams with money. Brenden may disagree, but than anything else right now. MIZ-ZOU's spending money on players, and they're spending money on their coach. Last week, Eli Drinkwitz signing an extension, so to speak, through 2029. He's still making $9 million this year. He'll have small increments leading up to about $9.5 million in his final year. Brenden, you and I were looking at where he ranks right now. I'm glad Missouri did this. Did they have to do it? No. But did they back another Brinks truck back up to his house right now, so to speak? Not necessarily, because he's already one of the highest paid football coaches in America. I like what it says for MIZ-ZOU. I like for the commitment. Of course, that just puts more of the pressure back on him. He's got to win games, 21 in the last 2 years. Can they keep it going? Thoughts on the contract extension, so to speak, with Eli?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. I think, with where he ranks in the SEC, there's maybe a handful that are making more than him, but he's in kind of that good middle class with coaches like Lane Kiffin, Josh Heupel around him. And so, and you add the additional year, that's always a factor when it comes to recruiting, to say, hey, I can go into somebody's living room and have them know that I am, under contract for the duration of the time that they would be here. So that's kind of, a key checkpoint within those contract extensions. But another thing that I think was a big impetus behind this one was that increase to the coaching pool for his assistant coaches. So the ability to pay his assistants more can keep the talent in the building that he wants in the building, or attract new talent when he needs to potentially replace assistants and coordinators and things of that nature. So I think that's a positive, and that it all does get traced back to money. But your thought on money with players is interesting. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I think when you're talking about wanting to recruit up against the big boys, whether it's high school or the transfer portal, I think we kind of have to accept that money is getting spent by all of them at this point. Money's not going to be the only thing that can differentiate you. You might pay over and above what another school is looking to pay for a particular player because you want to make sure you get that guy. But with a lot of these guys, they're getting offered money by multiple schools. And I think to have a coaching staff that players and young people are excited to play for and can make those connections during the recruiting process, I think is a big deal. It's more than just a tiebreaker, but it also, when you think about, okay, if I'm getting offered money from 5 schools and yeah, maybe this one's the most, but this one's pretty much the same. What connection do I have with coaches? I still think is something that goes a long way.
Absolutely. If it is the same, but I'm continually told that MIZ-ZOU is offering, when they want guys, more money than other kids. And that's why I'm curious how the whole switch now, when a university can only spend so much money per year, the 20 million or so. And do I think people are going to stay to that? No. Schools are going to have to, they got used to spending over 30 million, like MIZ-ZOU. What was it? 31 million MIZ-ZOU spent last year on athletes. I think it was a total of 31 million. That's what
I heard too. And I think a lot of that came like right before that July 1st deadline where the whole structure is changing. And so they might've got something under the bell to sort of plan ahead for the next year or two.
You're a consistency with coaching. Yes, it is there. But if we're putting it into where all the money is equal, okay. Then coaching staff, a consistency. Eli starting his 6th season, which is really good. He's already up there, top of the most tenured coaches in the SEC, making over or right at over $9 million a year. We talked about the ranking there, top 6, coaches when it comes to money, and your assistants. I'll tell you this, and I know we saw Nick Saban lose assistants all over the place, including Kirby Smart, who, by the way, is the highest paid SEC coach and highest paid in the country at over $13 million a year for college football. Your assistants, and I'll tell you this as a former player, are so key, because a head coach can only be so much of his time on the offense, so much of his time on the defense. You're the CEO, and I'm not trying to state the obvious. You got to learn how to delegate. You got to trust your assistants. Even assistants, a lot of these great coaches started as great assistants, and then they ascend. Mizzou has done a really good job. They've lost assistants, but they've been able to keep some pretty darn good guys around. And that is key to make sure that when you do find the next up and coaches, that you can keep them there and healthy, because not only are players being sought after by other football staffs with all the money that's coming in, coaches are looking to get plucked. We saw that with Mizzou's defensive coordinator 2 years ago. When you thought you had something really good going on, it's like, oh man, he's going back to LSU. Damn, we got to deal with this. So I like what it says. Eli getting that vote last week, that came in. It was after we did our show on Monday. Just wanted to touch upon that. When it came to the amount of money that's being spent, Mizzou's still a good spender. Mizzou may not be getting the national respect, in my humble opinion, when it comes to SEC media, but that takes time. That may take generations, especially when you're dealing with the Southeastern mindsets down there. But I think Mizzou has done a phenomenal job at putting itself up in a class when it comes to respect and money. But at the same point in time, we had Mike Kelly on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, Vic, I'm going to tell you right now, local businesses and corporations throughout the state of Missouri need to jump in to keep this sustainable, because right now, he's like, there is a want and there's a need, and they're also noticing to keep this sustainable, they got to have more money coming in.
Yeah, that's going to be so interesting. Like when you think about ticket revenue driven from that, and Laird Veach has been sending out emails and trying to keep the fan base kind of up to date with what they're planning. But increase in ticket prices, I think we're certainly going to be seeing this year when it comes to whatever available. I believe the season ticket packages had an increase as well. And that's all part of trying to say, hey, like, we want to compete at the highest level of revenue sharing. We are committing to doing that. But, the duration, as far as how long they're able to do that, obviously, if they don't have the revenue coming in, it's going to have to be a change to that calculus. But I think that's where another really strong season coming right now, when they do happen to have 8 home games on the schedule and 4 road games against conference opponents that they did beat last year, even though those were all pretty close games at home. It sets up where if you can have that season, that real next breakthrough season, and it can coincide with where this revenue need is kind of there lurking beneath the surface. Mizzou fans have always supported, whether it's football, basketball, when things are going well. I think that the trend that they want to implement is that we support no matter what. And that is something that sounds very idealistic, but maybe is doable to get on a level of some of those, other blue bloods in the SEC with the influx of cash that they have initially been pouring into the program. You can jumpstart it and then maybe, Vic, keep it there. I think that would be the goal. But I think for as much as it's easy to say, hey, we would love X, Y, and Z in terms of revenue coming in, whether that's all these games to be sold out, local businesses, corporate sponsorships, all of those things, winning is going to be the thing that I think puts that over the top in 2025. If they can do it now, I think they're going to have a lot of people on board and ready to say, hey, this is just what we do now. We're Mizzou. We win 9-10 games every year, and this is the type of program that you're going to be supporting. It all starts with winning, and I think they're set up to be able to do it this year.
In honor of Grant Salzman, who isn't here today on vacation, I think in each of the last 3 weeks he brought up September 6th. You know what's happening September 6th? That's when Kansas
I do.
Comes to town for Missouri. He's brought up so we'll do it here for 4 straight weeks as we lead into that. A game that I saw that was sold out. You graduated in 2016. Do you feel as if you understand the rivalry, had an opportunity to ingest that from a standpoint of Mizzou, Kansas, Mizzou, and the starting back of this game, this series this year on September 6th in Columbia?
Yeah, so I come at it from a more unique standpoint than some of my buddies at Mizzou that might have come in from Texas or come in from other places, Chicago, whatever the case, where they maybe didn't grow up in it. But I grew up a Mizzou fan, so I knew Sod Reesing, and I knew, Kansas, the final, that's what I call him anyway. I knew I say this, Vic, and so for people who don't maybe know me as well, I grew up in, the St. Louis area and was a fan of the local teams. I was a big Cardinals fan, right? Before I started covering the Cardinals, where I sort of lost my fandom by doing it from a professional lens as a writer and radio and those sorts of things. My fandom for the Cardinals has not been the same. I have refused to relinquish my Mizzou fandom because it's the only thing I've got left. When the Rams leave St. Louis, I didn't really adopt a new NFL team. Yep. So that's I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be open and honest with everybody. I am a Mizzou homer. I want Mizzou to win. I am a fan first and foremost. But when it came to when I was younger, all the Kansas stuff, those games were being played. I feel like maybe a little bit. I love that Mizzou went to the SEC. I think it was the best thing for him. But I feel robbed a little bit because my freshman year was that first year in the SEC. So I didn't in person get to experience those games, when it was in the Big 12 heyday. And so bringing it back is something that's really exciting. But no, I tell people when it was always like Cardinals, Cubs, I never really hated the Cubs. It's just whatever. They're the rival. I have hate in my heart for Kansas. So I still do. And so I'm okay to be able to say that and to give that kind of perspective on, I recognize that September 6th is going to be a big one.
Yeah, I started just being kind to my Kansas friends, the Kansas people, to help me get out of the hate problem, because I had a hatred for them too.
What do you mean by problem? What kind of problem?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with a hate Kansas problem, and I was told the first thing I had to do to get better was to admit that I had a problem.
See, I don't consider it a problem. It's just part of my personality.
Thank you for bringing the real me back out.
I'm not trying to change anything here. I'm happy with my state of my, maybe it's a character flaw, but it's one that I don't plan to change.
Well, I plan on Mizzou being up going into fourth quarter for a Mr. Brightside song, and how loud that is going to be. Start thinking ahead. For people who don't know and listen to the show, in the fourth quarter, start of the fourth quarter, Mr. Brightside is played. And of course, there is a FKU chant in the middle.
There's an interlude. There's an interlude.
And it's a phenomenal song with a phenomenal interlude, so to speak. And there is an energy that picks up from that. Every time I laugh and I'm like, oh my God, it's getting bigger and better, especially September 6th. Holy moly.
It's going to be the pinnacle of that. So, and I've got a little situation where my 2-year-old is real excited about getting to go back to these Tigers games.
Oh, no.
And so
earphones.
Last year, I found a video of this from when he was just, I guess he was still maybe 1 or almost about to turn 2, whatever the case was, early last season. And I found we were at we went to a game, and of course that's what they all sing. And so he's kind of a toddler learning to pick up on things. And so we went to like a Raising Cane's next door after the game, and he was like, Dada, why were they saying, you know what? And so I took some videos, but at our house now we practice in the middle of the interlude for Mr. Brightside. We just go Mizzou. And so we're going to, I know that he heard it, and I know that like it was funny to me, but eventually, I have to make sure that we're on top of that one. But I do have the videos from back when he would maybe be known to participate and sing along. But he doesn't like the loud fireworks at these games either. When they intro the players and it's a big. So we've got little headphones for him to wear. He might not even hear it, Vic, but he probably hear it. It's gonna be pretty loud.
I don't doubt that one bit. Okay, are you Are you interested?
Yeah, no, so I had a similar story to Brenden, actually. So when MIZ-ZOU played Memphis at what used to be Edward Jones Dome a couple of years ago.
At the Dome, yeah.
I went. I don't get to go to MIZ-ZOU games very often because it's a haul to Columbia, and so I was really excited. And I had really good seats. And so we get to the end of the third quarter, and Mr. Brightside starts playing, and there's this dad with kid couldn't have been any older than like 4, and you see the dad remember what happens at the end of Mr. Brightside. And just like you see like, oh no, as however many 30, 40,000 people in the dome start chanting FKU, and he's like, he went to go cover his kids' ears, and he was like, you know what, it's not gonna be worth it.
It's not.
They gotta learn sometime.
But you know what? I'll get you guys' opinion on this from this standpoint. I didn't like it at first because I felt like we were giving Kansas too much respect. And a guy who I go back and forth with goes, dude, we totally forgot about you guys. We're not even in your conference. We don't play you. And you have to spend time saying FAU to us or FUKU. So his point was, we win. We're living rent free in your head. But now we're back playing them. And I'm excited about it more so now.
Yeah, you don't have to. The Beakers will say many things. I don't believe most of them. Oh, we don't think about you. We don't care. And they're crying into their pillows at the end of the night. So I'm not worried about it. The game, as far as the game goes, like I'm not counting Kansas as a walkover team.
They are not a walkover team.
They've got that quarterback. If he's healthy, he's a good player. And they're excited about their little stadium renovations. That's nice for them. That I am not predicting that to just be this blowout win. In fact, I think it's going to be a close one possession game that will bring me to the brink. I will see the light.
It's a second game of the year for a new offense. That's what I was saying.
They better take Central Arkansas real serious to prepare, right? And we've seen it in the past. I think it was that year with Memphis and maybe thinking even further back, but they kind of didn't let the big dogs eat one year. That was Middle Tennessee, maybe one year, where it's like, what are we doing with this offense last year? And so eventually you kind of have to let it eat and be ready. But I think there will be some tricks up their sleeve as well for that Kansas game. But my thought is, Vic, the way the season breaks down, and again, their win total in Vegas might be like 7.5, so they're not expected to be a playoff team. But if you say level 1 is Kansas, level 2 is that South Carolina game on the 20th of September. You win the first 2 levels, you get to play level 3. That's Alabama.
Correct.
And of course, they're going to play Alabama regardless. But if you win the first 2 levels of this game, of this video game, right? It's like a Super Mario. If you win the first 2 levels, I really think you have a chance to beat Alabama in level 3. But you got it. Each level, it's going to get a little tougher. Kansas game's going to be a tough game. South Carolina was an even better team last year, bringing their quarterback, Lenore Sellers, back. So that's tough level 2. That's kind of how I view it, but they got to get through level 1, Kansas or not. That's a caliber of team that will be a challenge.
Yeah, but it is the SEC too, and don't think for a second that Vanderbilt isn't planning on beating Missouri when Missouri goes there either. I know. I'm just. That's what they.
I hear you, but am I correct though? That's later in the season.
Later in the season, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking at it chronologically, saying, all right, level 1, that's Kansas. Then you play Louisiana, that's fine. Level 2 is South Carolina. Then, okay, homecoming, but it's UMass. That's fine. Then it's Alabama. And, like, if you are crossing through those levels, then you get into the road portion of the schedule. You're at Auburn, at Vandy. You do host A&M, but you go to Oklahoma and Arkansas later in the year. If they can get through that early portion, cross through all those levels, we could be talking about the playoff this year. But that's kind of the way I chronologically view it.
You know what I love talking about? I love seeing our former players go play in the NFL. Brady Cook specifically. I already said I'm a Brady Cook homer. I love what he did at MIZ-ZOU. Not only do I know him, but I know players who played with him. And literally, it's not just running through a brick wall. How many times will you try to run through that brick wall for a player? Brady Cook, of course, signs as an undrafted free agent with the New York Jets. Last week, Justin Fields hurts his toe, and you're like, okay, then another quarterback that they had from Florida State retires because of the knee injury.
Yeah.
So Brady's sitting there pretty solid as the number 3 quarterback. Nobody else was brought in that could really compete with Brady. Yesterday, we see him light up some of the football, I guess, if you will, video reels with a nice touch pass. You know, it's not like he's like it's practice, But it's Brady Cook doing something well at Jets practice, and he had already had some hype coming out of their rookie OTAs. So I'm like, oh, who knows? Maybe Brady not only makes this team, but is somebody they start to feel a little bit more comfortable with. I'm not sure if you saw the play or not, but it's Brady looking good on a touch pass.
Yeah. Xavier Gibson was the receiver.
Correct.
Kind of streaking down the right side. It's a nice looking pass. I've seen good things from him in camp. Like you say, it's one video, one throw. We can't overreact. But you do think about that depth chart. And like Justin Fields, I believe, is back participating. But again, his style of play is one that could lead to some injury because he is a hard-nosed runner with the football. And so if something were to happen to Fields, do they get into a situation where they view it as like, all right, Tyrod Taylor is going to be our veteran that we trust, but man, he's been replaced a number of times in his career.
He's solid.
Just continue to make an impression. That's it, though. For Brady, is just continue to make an impression because the depth chart could continue to kind of slide his direction, and you never do know. Could he be in that spot, Vic, where maybe there's not an injury, but he does well enough in camp that he earns that sort of game day inactive, but he's your QB3 just in case they've instituted that now in the NFL where you're not on the whatever it is, the 53 for that day's game. But they have the emergency quarterback available just so that, if the first two guys go down, he would be able to step in. That's a valuable enough role really to keep a guy out of practice squad purgatory.
Yeah,
so that would be something that, yeah.
His mind is so good. He is so smart and spends the time where there's no doubt in my mind he will find a way. I'm just telling you, he's going to find a way. I still remember when he was a freshman and sophomore at MIZ-ZOU. We got this quarterback from East St. Louis coming in. We got this guy. I'm like, I told anybody and everybody that would listen or bring it up to me, nobody's beating out Brady Cook because nobody else is going to be the practice player or the film study guy that he is. You may see some good things. You may see some things where he's not so fantastic, but I promise you, nobody's beating out Brady Cook. Those guys, I've played with those type of guys. You're not going to beat him out. And he's only getting smarter. He's only getting more experienced. And I think he makes that Jets team. I really do.
I'll say this. I play in some dynasty fantasy football leagues. He's on my taxi squad. I already picked him up just in case.
There you go.
I'm ready, baby.
Of course, because you are the man
Cook.
when it comes to that situation. Hey, before we get out of here today, too, Sophie Cunningham, a little bit off the beaten path, gets fined by the WNBA. How long do we have, Eli? How much time do we have?
Real quick.
Okay. Sophie Cunningham fined $500. What's the WNBA doing? Really? Because they said she allegedly made fun of the refs in a TikTok.
In
Give
a
me a
TikTok.
break. Come on,
Yeah,
WNBA.
There would be people lining up to pay that fine for her, asking to do it again. People
I'll
love
pay
to
it.
say, hey, hold the refs accountable. Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Brenden, greatly appreciate. Thanks for stepping in today for Grant
Yes, sir.
Salzman. We appreciate it. We'll catch back up with you. Once again, real quick, how can people find you?
I'm at B Schaeffer 12 on pretty much any social media you could want to find. BSCHAEFFER 12.
All right, that's Brenden Schaeffer for Grant Salzman. I'm Vic Faust. This has been the MIZ-ZOU show here every Monday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Have a great day. We'll be back next week.
You've been strong for everyone else, but let me ask you, who is strong for you? I am Jennifer Bardot, radio personality, author,